Today I am going to teach you about cardiac and vascular function curve. Anyone tell me why Dr. Dinosha going to teach you about cardiac and vascular function curve? I am 100% sure, 100 plus one more sure, you can't tell that. Because my next lecture will be about fluid assessment. To assess the fluid status of your patient, you should have very good knowledge about the cardiac and vascular function curve. Why you need to assess fluid status of your patient, especially critically ill patient? You can't give too much fluid, it will increase the mortality. You can't give lesser amount of fluid, it will increase the mortality. You should give optimum amount of fluid to your patient. In order to give optimum amount of fluid, you should know about the cardiac and vascular function curve. Today I am going to teach you about cardiac and vascular function curve. Before I go into topic, I want to do an experiment. I want to give IV fluid into my patient while monitoring the cardiac output. What I want to give IV fluid to my patient while monitoring the cardiac output. I am going to insert a cannula into my patient and I am going to give larger amount of normal saline while monitoring the cardiac output. Here my vascular system, it includes superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, right atrium. This is my right ventricle. Once blood comes into right ventricle, it ejects into lung. So once my blood travels through lung, it becomes oxygenated. Oxygenated blood appear in red in color. Oxygenated blood comes into left atrium followed by left ventricle. Then left ventricle eject blood through my whole body. Oxygenated blood travel into tissue level. Here oxygen extract by my cells. Because of that, it becomes gradually deoxygenated. Deoxygenated blood appear blue in color. Now I am going to do experiment on this circulatory system. What I am going to do is, I am going to insert cannula into this vessel and I am going to give IV fluid into my patient. I am going to give normal saline into my patient. Then I am going to do the stroke volume or cardiac output assessment from here. I am going to do stroke volume or cardiac output assessment. I am going to keep a Doppler probe here. Doppler probe here. I am going to assess cardiac output, stroke volume or cardiac output. Then I gradually increase the normal saline infusion. I started with 10 ml per minute infusion. Then I gradually increase 20 ml per minute, 30 ml per minute, 50, 100 ml per minute, 200 ml per minute. I gradually increase the amount of infusion while monitoring the stroke volume or cardiac output from here. Then I am going to make a graph. For the x-axis, I am going to take amount of infusion. For the y-axis, I am going to take cardiac output. Here my x-axis, amount of saline infusion. Here my y-axis, cardiac output. What I found is, when I increase the amount of saline infusion, no surprising, cardiac output must be increased. When I increase in the normal saline infusion from here, the cardiac output should be increased. So when I increase this amount of saline infusion, the cardiac output gradually increase. But once it comes into this point, even though I increase the amount of saline infusion, cardiac output going to be dropped. What? Once this curve comes into this point, even though I increase the normal saline infusion, cardiac output going to be reduced gradually. Can it happen? Yes, it happens. I will explain how. Once it comes into this point, when I increase the amount of saline, heart going to be enlarged too much because of the saline infusion. My heart going to be fail. Once it enlarged too much, it can't contract properly. It can't contract properly. From here to here, when I increase the amount of saline infusion, what happened? When I increase in the amount of saline, what happened? Here the heart chamber size about this much. Left ventricular chamber size prior to contraction, that means end diastolic volume. End diastolic volume, the left ventricular volume prior to contract is this much. Here it this much. Here it this much. When coming to here, it is this much. But when coming to here, left ventricular volume prior to contract, that means end diastolic volume. Left ventricular end diastolic volume is this much. Once it become from here to here, what happened is your cardiac myocyte is too much stretched. Because of that, heart going to be failed. Your heart going to be failed because your cardiac myocyte is too much stretched. So heart going to be failed. This is very similar to elastic strip. Once you stretch little bit, it will contract. If you stretch it much more, it will contract much more rapidly. If you increase too much, the cellularity of the elastic strip is, so the consistency of the elastic strip going to be changed. It will never come back into normal level. This is what happened in your heart as well. The same thing happened in your heart. Here we stretch little bit by giving little amount of saline. Here we stretch much more amount by giving normal saline. Here we stretch too much amount of heart by giving normal saline. When you increase the volume, what happens is not only left ventricular end diastolic volume increase, left ventricular end diastolic pressure also gradually increase. For the amount of saline, now you can write here end diastolic volume or end diastolic pressure. Here cardiac output, or you can write as stroke volume. Unfortunately, this experiment first of all not done by Dr. Dinosha, previously done by several people. At first this experiment was done by Ernest Frank and Stalin. For the y-axis they select stroke volume. For the x-axis they select end diastolic volume. When end diastolic volume increase, what they found is stroke volume going to be increased. What they say is when we stretch myocardium, it will contract more. When we stretch the myocardium more and more, it will contract more and more. That law is called Frank-Stalin law. Frank-Stalin law. Ernest Frank and Stalin. What they say is when we increase the diameter of the ventricle, it will contract more. But unfortunately, up to this degree, only up to this degree. If you increase from here to here, it will never come back to normal. The consistency of the elastic fibers going to be changed. Because of that, it never come back to normal. This is the experiment I did on my heart. Then I am going to do this same experiment on my younger brother heart. What I am going to do is, I am going to do this same experiment on my younger brother heart. Younger brother has very good heart than me. I am too old. Several myocardial infarction I had. No, I don't have any myocardial infarction. But my heart is much more weaker than my younger brother. My younger brother has very good heart. When I increase the end diastolic volume, his ejection or stroke volume or his cardiac output is much more higher than me. His cardiac output much more higher. His failing point also much more toward the lateral side, not like me. He can accommodate this much of volume as well. I can't accommodate this much of volume. My heart failed from here to here. but his heart fell from here to here. He can accommodate this much of volume even without trouble. If you have a good and young healthy heart, you can accommodate much more volume. If you have weak heart, if I do same experiment on my grandfather heart, he may have much more weaker heart than me. If I did same experiment on my grandfather heart, what I found is the curve will be like this. From here to here, he can't accommodate to it. If I give more fluid from here to here, he can't accommodate to it. His heart going to be fail from here to here. My heart going to be fail from here to here. My younger brother heart going to be fail from here to here. So individual heart behavior in separate manner. You have to identify whether this patient heart going to be fail from which point. You have to identify that. This curve is called Frank-Starling curve. The law behind that is called Frank-Starling law. Now I am going to do another experiment for you. What I am going to do is, I should have same amount of cardiac output with comparing the venous return. The blood which come into left ventricle or right ventricle is called venous return. Those same amount should come from ventricle into outside as a cardiac output. So my venous return to the heart and cardiac output must be similar. My venous return into heart and cardiac output must be similar. No surprising, otherwise fluid should accumulate in the heart. There is no place to accumulate fluid in my heart. So my venous return and cardiac output must be similar. What I am going to check right now is, I am going to assess the right atrial pressure and venous return in a single curve. Again I am going to do an experiment. I am going to assess the right atrial pressure here, right atrial pressure and the venous return. Right atrial pressure and venous return. Here right atrial pressure. I am going to change right atrial pressure gradually. While changing the right atrial pressure, I am going to measure the venous return. Venous return actually must be equal to cardiac output. If anyone want, you can write cardiac output as well. But here I am going to write it as venous return. Right atrial pressure. If I have right atrial pressure of roughly about 10 millimeter mercury, here roughly about 10 millimeter mercury, your venous system pressure also roughly about 5 to 10 millimeter mercury. Venous system pressure is roughly about 5 to 10 millimeter mercury. If you have 10 millimeter mercury pressure in your right atrium, can blood drain from here to here? Here pressure also roughly about 10 millimeter mercury. Can blood come from here to here? No, your venous return is 0. If you have right atrial pressure of 10, here venous return is 0. Venous return is 0. Then what I am going to do is, I am going to gradually reduce the right atrial pressure. I am going to gradually reduce the right atrial pressure. While reducing the right atrial pressure, I am going to measure the venous return. Venous return actually must be equal to cardiac output. Very good. So while reducing the venous right atrial pressure, I am going to measure the venous return. Here I am going to reduce it to 8. Once it becomes 8, here are 10, so venous return going to be started. Once it becomes 6, venous return increase further. Once it becomes 4, further increase, 2, further increase, 0, further increase. If it is become -2, it can further increase. So what happened is, here 0, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. Here 10. Until it becomes 0, venous return gradually increase. Venous return gradually increase until left atrial pressure becomes 0. I am wrong. Right atrial pressure becomes 0. Venous return gradually increase. What happens when it becomes 0? When it becomes subatmospheric pressure lesser than 0, your great vessels start to collapse. For a while think, here it becomes -2. With the -2, this vessel is going to be collapsed because it has little bit of suctioning effect. So your cardiac output of venous return not going to be changed even after 0. Because if once it becomes -4, pressure gradient more, but collapse also much more. Because of that, you are not going to produce more venous return. So after that, because of the vessel collapsing, venous return not going to be increased. For the venous return, you can write cardiac output as well. Now what I am going to do is, I am going to give vasodilators into this patient. Arterial dilators into this patient. Arterial dilators. Once I give arterial dilators, blood rapidly comes from here to here because these arterioles dilate rapidly. Blood rapidly coming from here to here. Your venous return going to be increased. If I give arterial dilators into my patient, if I give GTN into my patient, glyceryl trinitrate to my patient, arterial dilators, sodium nitroprusside, arterial dilators, what happened is blood rapidly come from here to here. Your venous return going to be increased. Your venous return going to be increased. This is what happened when I give arterial dilators into my patient. From 0 onward, from here to here, even though you create negative pressure in your right atrium, you can't take more fluid because your great vessels not made larger amount of muscular layer like arteries, aorta. Because of that, it's going to be collapsed. So this is what happens when you give arterial dilators. If I give arterial constrictor to my patient, like noradrenaline or norepinephrine, what happens is blood will slowly come from here to here. Blood will slowly come from here to here. Your venous return going to be reduced for the given right atrial pressure. Here for the given right atrial pressure, your venous return going to be increased if you give vasodilators. If you give vasoconstrictors for the given right atrial pressure, lesser amount of fluid come from here to here. Because of that, your pressure not going to be, your venous return not going to be increased. Your pressure can increase because of the vasoconstrictor, but your venous return going to be reduced. Your venous return will be like this if you give venoconstrictor. If you give venoconstrictor, your venous return curve will be like this. From here to here, it gradually increases. From here to here, it not going to change. This is what happened if we give arterial constrictors. This is arterial dilators. This is arterial constrictors. If you give more fluid to your patient, what happened is your endpoint also going to be increased. That means this mean systemic filling pressure of here pressure also going to be increased. Here initially for 12, now 14. If once we give large amount of fluid, my mean systemic filling pressure or pressure here also going to be increased. Not only that, because of that, pressure gradient create toward the heart also going to be increased. So venous return gradually increase. If I give large amount of fluid, what happens is curve will be like this. For this axis, venous return or cardiac output. For this axis, right atrial pressure. Initial curve will be like this. Here 0, here here 10 millimeter mercury. Once I give fluid to my patient, it becomes 14. Not only 10, now even with the 14, I can drain fluid from here to here. So here must be 14. Your venous return also going to be increased. So curve will be like this. Once I give IV fluid, the curve will be like this. Curve shifted into the right side. If my patient have depleted amount of IV fluid, bleeding and fluid going to be lost from the circulatory system, what happens? The curve will be like this. Curve going to be shifted into left side. If I give more fluid, curve going to be shifted into right side. If I have lesser amount of fluid, what I should need to have, what happens is curve again going to be shifted into left side. Now I am going to combine these two curves together. Is it possible? Yes. How? I will tell. For this axis, venous return must be equal to cardiac output. Here also cardiac output. Here also venous return or cardiac output. Because of that, I can combine these two curves together. Vascular function curve and cardiac function curve I can combine together. We'll see what happens when I combine those two together. Would you like to see it? Yes. Here, cardiac output or stroke volume. Actually, to say cardiac function curve, this axis should be cardiac output, this axis should be end-diastolic volume or end-diastolic pressure. End-diastolic volume or left ventricular end-diastolic volume or end-diastolic pressure. To say cardiac function curve. To say vascular function curve, y-axis should be venous return, left axis should be, x-axis should be right atrial pressure. To say vascular function curve. Now I am going to combine those two together. Here, the venous return going to be start from here to here. Venous return going to be start from this line. What happened is, venous return, here you are 0, here you are 10, here you are 14. What happened is, gradually when you increase the right atrial pressure, when you reduces the right atrial pressure gradually, venous return gradually increase. Venous return gradually increase. Once it come into 0, even though you decrease right atrial pressure to subatmospheric pressure, you can't get much more venous return because of the greater vein collapse. Because of the greater vein collapse, venous return not going to be changed. This intersecting point of your vascular function curve and cardiac function curve is your cardiac output. What? This intersecting point, here your vascular function curve or venous return curve. This is your cardiac output curve. If I take me, this is my cardiac function curve or curve according to Frank Stahl. This is my vascular function curve. The intersecting point is those two lines is here. This is my cardiac output. If I am a healthy young adult with 70 kg, roughly my cardiac output is about 5 liters per minute. This is my cardiac output, 5 liters per minute. For the same venous return, my younger brother has this much of cardiac output. it is roughly about 6 liters per minute. For the same venous return, my grandfather has this much of intersecting point is here, so he has this much of cardiac output, roughly about 3 liters per minute. My younger brother has 6, me has 5, unfortunately grandfather 3 liters per minute. If I give inotrope to my patient, or if I give inotrope to me, what happened is contractility become more and more. Contractility increase. My heart will be like my younger brother heart. Cardiac output going to be increased. So if I give inotrope, if I give drugs which increase the contractility of heart, the curve will be moving to here. Increase contractility. Here from here to here decrease contractility. So initial cardiac output here, once I give drug to improve the contractility, cardiac output improving to 6 liters per minute. For a while think my younger, not the younger brother, my grandfather have 3 liters per minute cardiac output. I want to increase it. I am going to give inotrope to my grandfather. Here my grandfather. I am going to give adrenaline to him, not to kill, to improve the cardiac output. Once I give adrenaline, contractility improve. So contractility curve shift from here to here. Vascular function curve not going to be changed because I just give drug to improve the contractility. So vascular function remains same. So new intersecting point is here now. Now my grandfather cardiac output is initially 3, now 5 liters per minute. Now what I am going to do is, I am not going to give adrenaline to my grandfather, but instead of that I am going to give IV fluid into my grandfather to improve the cardiac output. Once I give IV fluid, what happened is vascular function curve behave like this. It started with 40 millimeter mercury. Initial cardiac output of my grandfather is here 3 liters per minute. Once I give IV fluid, the intersecting point is here. It is little bit higher than the previous value. Now cardiac output is roughly about 4 liters per minute. Before IV fluid, it was 3 liters per minute. After IV fluid, 4 liters per minute. That means I can improve cardiac output of my grandfather either giving IV fluid or either giving what? IV fluid. That is how we are going to manage in patient with hypovolemia or poor contractility. Even after I give IV fluid, if my patient is not improved, it may be due to what? The failing heart. Even after I give IV fluid, my patient cardiac output is not improved. That means my patient heart is going to fail. I will tell how. If I give too much IV fluid like here, what happened is my patient shift from here to here in their cardiac function curve. Because of that, they can't eject blood properly because heart is too much dilated, not properly contract. Because of that, not going to produce enough cardiac output. So heart become fail. We are going to call it as failed heart. For the failed heart, you can't give fluid unnecessarily. For the young heart, until this level, you can give fluid without any trouble. If you give fluid more than this level, again it is going to be fail. One more thing to highlight here. If you check cardiac output of my patient right now, for a while, think my cardiac output here. Roughly about 7 liters per minute. For a while, think. For this 7 liters per minute, I can be here or I can be here. That means rising part of this Frank-Starling curve or the dropping part of Frank-Starling curve. If I am in the rising part of Frank-Starling curve, if I receive IV fluid, I can further increase cardiac output, because once I increase the left ventricular volume from here to here, it will increase cardiac output. If I am here, that means this much of heart. If I give further fluid, it becomes this much, heart going to be fail, cardiac output going to be drop. That means for the given cardiac output, you can have two entities if you give fluid to that patient. If you found a patient with 7 liters per minute cardiac output, if you give fluid to that patient, it can become 8 and it can become even 6 as well. Here my cardiac output is 7. Once I give fluid, it becomes here, so it increases into 8 because I was here previously. If I was here previously, once I give fluid, I am going to drop from here to here. Now my cardiac output is somewhere around 6.5. So you should be very careful when you are giving fluid. You should have very good idea, very good knowledge about where your patient in Frank-Starling curve, where your patient in vascular function curve. That is all regarding the IV fluid and Frank-Starling curve and vascular function curve or cardiac function curve. Thank you very much.